So what's very neat to understand is if there is a ruling elite, if there is this conspiracy, there has to be an antithesis. There has to be. So if there's this depth of evil, what does that mean? If we are doing nothing but focusing on the depth that some people can, the lows that some people can reach, the evil that some people can present in their day-to-day life, if we are so focused on that, what are we missing? We're missing the principal antithesis of that, because there cannot be that depth of low if there is not the height of the absolute opposite of that. So in a way, I really like that word, specifically opportunity. Every challenge that we see, every depth that either the world sinks into or our own emotions sinks into, whether we're going through a very hard time in a relationship or the loss of a loved one, anything that we consider to be a low, it's very, very difficult. And what's interesting about it is that's really where medicine, the true inner medicine, if you want to talk about it spiritually, it's called extreme unction. What it really is that medicine emotionally within us, mentally within us, willfully, all of that medicine that works on every single level of our being, it exists within us, and it is most active and most present and most available and willing to give itself to you when you are dealing with a stressful, very difficult, depressing time. When you're dealing with all of this stress, that is when there is the most opportunity for growth. And actually, in a way, I'm not saying that's the only time, but in a way, that is the absolute most opportune time for you to grow, is when you are dealing with something that seems almost impossible to get out of. Those are the most gratifying. Those are the most evolving. They help you grow as a person on every level. And when we're dealing with something like this, there is always the opportunity for the opposite. So in a sense, you can look at it. Every time you see how low the world can get, every time you see how low either individuals or corporations or anything like that can get, when you see that depth, it should, in some way, shape, or form, yes, you can shed a tear for that, because it is very sad in some ways what is happening to this world. But there is always an opportunity. And one thing I always like to keep in mind, and it's very difficult for people to find too much solace in this because it's kind of hard to relate to. But if you think about it, in the end, and I'm not just talking time, but I'm talking, with events, with emotions, with anything, in the end, everything regulates itself, everything balances itself, and everything goes back to normal. And really, it's almost like a movie. When you're really, really trapped inside it, like when you're watching and you're extremely immersed and engaged in a horror film, and it's taking you on this roller coaster. Or it doesn't even have to be a horror film. It could be a very sad, like a drama, a very sad movie about relationship or loss or anything like that. When you're really, really engaged, and you start feeling the emotions that the protagonist is feeling, when you start somewhat understanding what that villain, that antagonist is feeling, when you start seeing the pain and the suffering that people are going through, because in every film, every book, every story, every myth, every scripture, there is always that beginning, that middle, that end, that rising action, that apex, and then the resolution at the end. And that is what everybody wants to see when it comes to movies, books, stories. Even when you're talking to your friends in the car, they always have that middle, beginning, and end. And if you look at any type of entertainment or anything whatsoever, that's the initiatic flow that everything fits into. So in a sense, if this, hopefully, these words can bring some amount of peace or solace or hope for anybody listening, is the fact that no matter what, since we are all in this together, it's very difficult for some of us to understand this, but even if we do end up losing our lives or losing the life of a loved one or something along those lines, even if there is great catastrophe, great depths, very, very low times, very high times, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but in the end, everything balances itself, and we always go back to the source. And it's just like at the end of that movie, when you're so wrapped up and immersed and engaged in this film, and then by the end of it, you catch yourself, and you're like, oh my God, it was just a movie. It was all in my head. I was so wrapped up. I was so on the edge of my seat, worried about, was he going to get the girl, or was he going to get out of that place alive, or was the killer going to get him? And I realized that really, in the end, everything, not just within the movie, but when you realize it, everything is the way it is, and everything is in some way, shape, or form constantly balancing itself. So it's very hard, and you would have to really do some deep meditation on what I'm saying with this. But in a sense, there really is no victory for evil. There is none. There's no hope for any type of evil to be victorious, because in the end, even the victorious, whether on the good or the bad side, they all balance out in the end.
Yeah, I've often said that there's really only one place for us to ultimately go, and that's to return to self. That the one true self. No matter how rough the ride is along the way, that's where we go. There is no choice. That's where we go. So there really is nothing to stress about. There is a lot of bad stuff going on, of course, but like I said, it provides a wonderful opportunity. This is an opportunity for the human race to connect with each other, and we wouldn't have this opportunity to connect were all this bad stuff not going on.
And what we really just need to do is learn that, how should I say it, that practice of expansion. Because expansion is only 50% of it. Obviously, with our breath and with everything, there is expansion and contraction. But since we are in a chronic state of contraction, we need to expand. We need to learn how to expand completely. And when you expand, you're really allowing love, you're allowing the world, you're allowing your own inner constitution to realign, harmonize itself, and to bring everything back into equanimity. And then when that happens, then you can contract again. When you contract, that's the physical activity. That's when you go out and everything that you absorbed when you were in expansive mode, in expansion mode. When you contract, that's your physical activity. Then it is not a negative thing, or I shouldn't say negative. Then it is not a purely masculine trait where you're doing nothing but acting and doing nothing but going out and trying to enact a revolution, trying to do good. And that's the problem. So many people are trying to do. They are doing things constantly, and they are hardly ever just being, just allowing the world, the universe, love, love itself to do the trick. Which is really, I mean, you hear it nonstop. You hear it in lyrics, you hear it in poems, you hear it in philosophy, you hear it in spiritual doctrines. Really, love is not something that you can control. You can't force love into your body. You can't force love into the universe, into the world. It's there. It just needs to be allowed. You need to allow it. Just for an exercise to do, instead of looking at the world as there being 6.5 or 6.7 billion people, just for a moment, pretend that it is 6.5 billion hands, just a hand. And what the hand is, what that represents, is expansion and contraction. When you contract the hand, you are closing it as a fist, such as when you're trying to hold on to something. When you expand the hand, it opens up. Now, to get anything done, to give, to interact with people, you need both expansion and contraction. Because if you look at it this way, if something is put in your hand, to hold it, you need to close your hand. You need to contract. You need to do something with what they've given you. So you need to contract. That's good. That's necessary in a way.
Well, this is positive contraction. It's not fear-based contraction.
Absolutely. So when you hold on to it, if you are not trying to hold it forever, and that's what it is, you can experience, you can use it for what it is, but once its purpose is done, you have to expand. Because what happens is if you do not, then that which you just took, that which you are trying to hold on to, not only is it rotting in your hand, because its life is done, not only is it rotting a hole in your hand, but you are not allowed, I'm not saying you're not allowed, but you are not able to receive anything else. Not only are you not giving it back, because everything is a form of give and take. It's that reciprocal relationship with the earth, with creation, with others. So when you are not letting go of something, that is the actual analogy for a constant state of contraction. So not only can you not give, but you cannot receive anymore. It's like trying to do nothing but breathe in. Eventually your lungs are going to... If we allow that energy to do what it is naturally supposed to do, we would not have any of the problems on this earth that we do.
Oh, no, very much, mate. We do very much enslave ourselves.
Probably one of the best things that I've ever learned, and I can't say that, I've mastered it, but in every event that we dislike, that we try and repel, say thank you for. Everything that we consider to be negative, all those bad situations, things that we call bad, things that we don't want, say thank you for them. It's very difficult to actually say it and mean it, to actually say thank you for somebody rear-ending you, or say thank you for a girl or a guy leaving you, or for just natural occurrences, natural events to take a loved one out of your life. It's very, very, very difficult to say thank you. But in a way, what's happening is you are learning in a very, very esoteric way. You are learning that you cannot control external events and that nothing in this world is not fleeting in some way, shape, or form. Everything in some way is fleeting. And that is the essence of that one quote in the Tao Te Ching of do not try and hold on to nature because you will ruin it. So really,
everything, all positive things and all negative things, all of them provide opportunities for us to grow if they're taken in the right context.
Absolutely. And that's really that's the beauty of it. It's one of those profound moments of clarity and understanding that the world is both very brutal and cruel at the same time as very loving and compassionate. And really it all exists within you. It doesn't matter what goes on. I mean, if you think about it, some of the happiest people I have ever met are down in the most poor areas of Peru, some of the most third world, type countries.
We're getting close to the end of the show. Just to finish up, what's Ben Stewart's solution to the problems that we face? What do you see as the solution to our problems? I know it's a big question, man, but what's your solution?
Well, I mean, it's tried and true, but it's stated in every single way. Really, the best way I could put it is, I would say, always question yourself. Whenever you think you know what love and freedom truly are, question yourself and get back to the root of it. Whenever you can think about it. Whenever you can think about, any situation in your life, am I expressing love out of my freedom to give and to receive love? And no matter what, I'll say it one more time before we finish up here. Always question yourself when you think you already understand what those two words mean. Because I've been questioning what love and freedom both mean for years and years and years now. And I spend almost every single day questioning it. And I am nowhere near to completely understanding what love and freedom are. But I can say that I am a lot farther along with understanding it than I was 2-3 years ago.